let's start with Halo games, because that's a pretty simple one to do, and I have some relatively controversial opinions regarding some of these games. And hey, T, good to see ya. Had to troubleshoot a little bit, go offline for a second, but I'm back. And I realize now that I have to mess with some of my Streamlabs settings before I go streaming. Okay, so the first one we will do is Halo. So Halo, I didn't really get into it later, I don't think. Like, the first time I played Halo was in 2005, so Halo 2 had just come out. Halo 1 had been out for a number of years. So I got to play Halo Combat Evolved that year, and then Halo 2 shortly after. So I didn't really get to experience it like on launch day like some people did when the Xbox came out. But let's start with Halo CE. So Halo CE, I absolutely love Halo CE. So just like I mentioned this on stream a few times, like some of the things about it that I really enjoy. But I was just mesmerized the very first time I played it, just looking up and seeing the ring just going over like the entirety of the map. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, there's like Marines or like Covenant over on that other side of the ring, like there's continents and stuff. So it just amazed me. And that sense of wonder I just have not gotten since, well, I mean, when I played VR Chat and I got to experience a Halo ring in VR. Like, that was the only other time that I felt that sense of wonder looking up at a Halo ring. So that is 100% going to be an S tier game. Like, Halo Combat Evolved, like, changed everything as far as, like, split-screen multiplayer, deathmatch, like, console shooters in general. Easily an S tier. Now we'll move on to Halo 2. Now, I am going to admit that I have some bias here because Halo 2 is by far my favorite in the entire franchise. S Halo, CE, S Reach, S Halo 2, S Halo 3. I mean, pretty much, like, I would put most of these in the S tier, but I have to be, like, relatively transparent and honest. Like, I have to, like, critique them a little bit. But Halo 2, I played probably more Halo 2 than any other game, and I can see the problems that Halo 2 had. Like, there's definitely bits of the rush development in there, but it's honestly probably one of the longer ones. It's the longest one of the original trilogy, mission-wise. And it gave you the unexpected campaign as the Arbiter. Like, we got to play as the Covenant for the first time, and you got to play as elites in multiplayer. Overall, like, the story and soundtrack are phenomenal. Like, the Mjolnir mix is one of the most iconic Halo songs, and Steve Vai doing the guitar for it. Like, Marty O'Donnell, like, knocked it out of the park for Halo 2 soundtrack, so definitely an S tier. Like, gameplay-wise, music, setting, and length, everything. Like, it had a cliffhanger, a really, really terrible cliffhanger, but it was still phenomenal. Like, easily an S tier. So let's move on to Halo 3. Now, Halo 3, I love Halo 3, but I do have some issues with it. So the biggest problem that I had with it is that it was too damn short. Like, they had to really tie up a lot of plot elements that were built up in Halo 1 and 2, and they changed a few of the voice actors. Like, the Prophet of Truth is a completely different voice actor in Halo 3 as opposed to Halo 2. So that really added a lot of inconsistency. Like, the characters felt completely different. Because the Prophet of Truth in Halo 2 was cunning, he was intelligent, he knew exactly what to do to manipulate people and the Covenant. However, in Halo 3, he was just really a mustache-twirling villain, and he really didn't feel that threatening to me. But that's just the story. Soundtrack, also really good, except for most of it is just remixes of Halo 1 soundtrack, so it didn't really add too many new songs. It just kind of built up what was already there. Multiplayer, solid S tier. Like, if I were just rating this on multiplayer, Halo 3, easily an S tier, one of the most fun multiplayer experiences of the 2000s. However, I am going to put Halo 3 in the A tier, because of the fact it's too short. There's a lot of inconsistencies, like I said, say like with the Prophet of Truth and changing of voice actors. It just really, some of the mood and some of the characters just changed way too much between games for me to give it a proper S tier. But if I could give it an A+, I would. So let's see, what came out after that? So Halo 3 ODST was the next in line, which came out in 2009. I was in 8th grade at the time. ODST, a lot of it relies on the mood that it sets. Because if you take away the music from ODST, it's really more of just like an open world stealth game. But the problem is that a lot of these stealth mechanics don't really work the way that they were intended to, because you're given a silenced pistol, but you're also given a silenced SMG. And the problem with that is that whenever you use these weapons in not multiplayer, but in the campaign mode, the suppressor doesn't really do anything. Like, they still immediately tune in on your location. So there's really no point in having a suppressed weapon if the suppressed weapon doesn't even work. Firefight was a phenomenal addition to the Halo franchise. ODST, I had a lot more fun in its Firefight than I did in Reach, just because, one, it was brand new, and two, just the experience of an ODST up against all of these enemies really gave you that feel of you're not the Master Chief. You are just another soldier that just so happens to have a lot of experience. So something that would be easy for the Chief is really difficult for the rookie, but I'm going to give that one an A tier as well. Just because if you take away the music from ODST and the suppressor stuff, then it's still a really solid title, but it's definitely not among Halo CE and Halo 2, don't think. So the next one to come out was Halo Reach, which was in 2010. And I actually have some controversial opinions about this one, but I do love Halo Reach, to kind of preface that. But I feel that Halo Reach and the direction that it was going was kind of the beginning of the end for the Halo franchise. Not that Reach was the problem that caused all of it, but when the Covenant weren't speaking English anymore, not even the grunts, and the grunt humor was a big thing for Halo, because you had what was his name? What was the director's name? Well, the director of most of the Halo games and the creative head for Halo Infinite before he retired, Joseph Staten. He was the one who played the grunts, but the problem is that the grunts aren't speaking English, so you don't get a lot of that humor. And I just really hated the armor abilities, to be honest. Because in the previous games, you would have to fight each other to get these armor abilities in the map. So for example, there's Overshield, or there's active camo somewhere. You would have to fight to go get it, and when you got it, you had an advantage over the rest of the team. However, when everybody starts by default with armor abilities that are just way overpowered in some instances, it just really took a lot of the joy of the gameplay to me. I really liked Firefight and Halo Reach. Lots of customization options, so you can literally just cheese a lot of the achievements doing that. The story was fantastic. It was a very good war story, but Reach, I don't know, the mood of it was really different from what I was used to as a Halo fan. If I could put this in between B and A, I would, but I'll give it an A, just because I do find a lot of enjoyment of it. It has the best customization system in all of the Halo titles, by far. Even Infinite and 5, every single one of them. Reach has the best. But I have to put it in an A tier because some of the mechanics that they created in this game really led to a lot of, the negative aspects of Halo, like the Covenant not speaking English anymore, the Elites being gigantic, and the Spartans not being anywhere near their height anymore. I'll give it an A tier. Now, Halo 4. I was really excited for Halo 4 when this one came out, when it was announced. Because there was rumors about Halo 4 for years leading up to its release. And Halo 4 was the first non-Bungie game to come out, but Halo 4 used a lot of assets and they use a lot of assets and a lot of like animations and gameplay mechanics of Halo Reach. So it felt somewhat like more of a reskin of Reach than anything unique. I do like how we were continuing Master Chief's story, but Halo 4, like, when you compare it to the rest of the franchise and just how and what Halo 4 leads into, like, Halo 4, I think, was the last, like, really good mainline Halo game, because it has its problems, but it's still a really fun game. I liked the Didact as a villain, but I feel like the Didact was really wasted in terms of his, for lack of a better word, his villainy. I just don't think that he got enough screen time, and he could have been set up to be like the trilogy's new villain, but they just offed him in a comic, rather than kind of just like letting him come back and being like an overarching thing. But Halo 4, great what it was trying to build up to, but it's a C tier. Like, it's fun and it has some fun moments, but overall, like, it was the, like, if Reach was the beginning of the end, then Halo 4 was the end. So Halo 5 Guardians, I will actually immediately put that into the never played, because I've never actually played the game. Now, I have touched the multiplayer in, because the PC has the Halo 5 Forge multiplayer, so you can create Forge maps easier for the Xbox version. But it allows you to play custom games, so that's pretty cool, but I've never actually played the campaign mode of Halo 5 more than just like a minute, so I can't really give it a judgment, so I'm going to put never played. And I can honestly put the same thing for Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars, because I own Halo Wars, but I've never actually played either of them. I just popped in, but I gotta go up to the store for a minute. I will return. Alright, Matt, thank you for popping in. Just doing some tier lists and some edutainment. Now, Spartan Assault, I'd give that a C. It's kind of like it's a top-down game, sort of like Call of Duty Black Ops, Dead Ops Arcade, or Alien Swarm, for example. Fun game, just not really a fun Halo game. And the same thing goes for Spartan Strike. I own it, but I've never played it. Now, Fireteam Raven, easily an A tier, because I did get to play that at a mall somewhat recently. And for an arcade title, it's really cool. Like, it's really cool to see, like, the perspective of Halo 1 from Marines or ODSTs that are just witnessing the Chief kill everything. Like, this is through their eyes, and it tells a story about the Pillar of Autumn you never really got to see. So I'm going to put that in A tier, because I had a lot of fun with it, playing with my brother, and I wish that it was more easily accessible, not just limited to arcade cabinets. So this is my Halo tier list. So that's kind of just how I feel. That's just my personal opinion about the games. There's probably a lot more that I could discuss about each one individually, but I don't want to like stay on one tier list for too long. I want to kind of go as many as I can, because my plan is I'm going to do this for like maybe 30-ish minutes, 45 minutes, and then I'm going to move on to the edutainment stuff. So let's go back to video games. I could go rank Nintendo franchises. You know what? Let's go to controllers. Okay, so I might not do this in the same exact order that it's portrayed, but I'll try to kind of keep this as consistent as possible. And if you have any suggestions for tier lists that I can look at, like that you want to see me do, then by all means let me know in the chat, because I really do want to, like, if there's an opinion about like a movie or a game you're interested in or a franchise, then yeah, do give me some suggestions in the chat. So let's start with the Switch Joy-Cons. Now, that's easily a B tier. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of drift. Joy-Cons, they drift very easily, and the buttons get stuck very easily. There's been multiple lawsuits and filings against Nintendo for this, but Nintendo has more money than God, so there's just no way that anything's going to come of it. So I don't personally use the Joy-Cons when I play my Switch unless I'm playing it undocked. Otherwise, I use the Pro Controller almost exclusively because while I do think that the idea of taking two controllers apart like that is cool, and it kind of gives you like a futuristic Wiimote kind of feel with the motion controls, it's just, I've never really been a fan of Nintendo's motion control gimmicks, whether that be the Wii or the DS. It doesn't really sit right with me, so I'm putting that in B tier. Now we've got the 360 controller. I'm gonna give that an S tier, just because, like, the original Xbox controller, like, I had the Duke growing up as a kid, so I was used to the button layout, but whenever I have, like, a 360, like, whenever I play a game on the computer, or if I'm playing something that requires a wireless controller or just a wired controller, I will usually use the 360 as my default, or the Xbox One controller, but preferably 360, just because it felt so good in my hand. But there are issues with it, of course, just like with any other controller, but personally, it's just my preference to have the 360 controller. Now, the Duke is also going to go in B tier. It's a famous controller, but holy hell, Microsoft, why did you make it that big? Because, like, half of the box space of your Xbox is being taken up by this monstrosity of a controller. I was able to play Halo relatively comfortably with the Duke, but personally, I think it was way too big. It just didn't feel comfortable. Just, like, and also, like, if you have smaller hands like myself, like, for example, I've got nubs. So just imagine me trying to play something with the Duke controller, and that's kind of what you'll get from that. Okay, and then I believe the next one here, it's kind of cut off. I believe that's an SNES controller. I'm actually going to put that in the A tier. Because I'm not thinking of this, like, in its time period, but I'm thinking of this, like, in the experience of me playing it. So, I really like the SNES controller, because compared to the regular NES, when you've got, like, 4 buttons, this one had a lot more, so it gave a lot more options for gameplay. It felt good in your hand, and it really kind of was the stepping stone for what is God tier, the GameCube controller, so that's a bit of a spoiler for how I feel. So, PlayStation controller. I can't tell if that's because the shape is pretty similar, and because I don't have my glasses on, I don't know, like, which ones are which console. So, generally the same shape for every PlayStation controller. So, like, Sony had the same, like, design philosophy for each PlayStation controller. But to be honest, I'm going to put them in a C tier, and that's not because they're bad controllers. It's because I've only had very limited experience with Sony's controllers and the PlayStation, like, design. So it's going to be C tier, mostly just because of my lack of experience and because I'm more used to, like, the traditional style of controller, like the Xbox or Nintendo's. I think this is for and these two, I'm actually going to leave these two down here because I've never played with the Sega Genesis controller, and this looks like another Sega controller. I'm also going to put the Wii U in, actually no, I'll put that in B. So it really depends on the game for the Wii U. So I really liked playing Mario Maker on the Wii U, but I really did not like playing games like Star Fox Zero or really anything else with the Wii U gamepad, because they had some good ideas, but I just really didn't enjoy how Nintendo's whole shtick is that they have this brand new idea, whether it be motion controls or docked playing on the go, it doesn't matter. Like, they always have a gimmick that they have to use to shoehorn into games, and that's why the Wii had so much shovelwares, because they used the motion control gimmick and everybody just shoved their crap onto the Wii. Really depends on personal experience. I grew up on PlayStation, would easily put them in A or S. Yeah, and that's just me. Like, that's just my personal opinion on the controllers. Like, I know that they're probably really good. It's just my lack of experience with them compared to me playing other types of controllers. And I know that for others it would be like an S+ tier, but just personal experience on my part. I just don't have a lot of I haven't really played much, and there's more. There's like 2 more down here. So don't take the C tier at face value, though. That's, yeah, just a lack of experience. So the Switch Pro Controller, easily an A tier. Like, I love the Pro Controller. It's so fun to play and Smash with the Pro Controller. The fact that you can just put your amiibo on the controller itself, on the very top, it's... Overall, I've had a really fun experience with the Pro Controller. Mine has been, like, beaten to absolute hell, and it still works. It's been through me going to college, it's been through my multiple moves, and it has a similar button layout to an Xbox controller, so it's fairly simple to use and, like, more familiar. And it's bulky, too. Like, it fits really well in my hand, so I'm going to give that an A tier. Now, GameCube, easily an S tier. Like, I know that some people may frown on the design these days, but GameCube controller, like, compared to Nintendo's previous controller, the N64, wow. Like, this is the controller to play Smash with. Like, not so much first-person shooters, but, again, this is all about personal preference. I love the GameCube design. It was probably the controller that I played the most with throughout my childhood. Because while I did have other consoles prior to the GameCube, I would really say that the GameCube was the one that I played the most of, and I played a lot of GameCube games growing up, so I'd say that that one's probably going to be my S tier because of my familiarity with it. I do enjoy a good controller. Yeah, like, and again, like, these are just my choices, so, and it's based off personal experience and opinion, so not dissing on anybody who has a different thought. Now, the NES controller, A tier. Well, not A tier, just because the SNES controller was really like a stepping stone for future design iterations of controllers. Like, it was, like, before that, you had a lot of, like, you had dial controllers and stuff like that for Pong consoles and whatnot, whereas the NES, like, it really brought, like, an arcade cabinet experience into your hand. Because, like, arcade cabinets at the time, of course, had a similar layout, but this one was just, like, it was in the palm of your hand. And the fact that there were so many arcade ports on the NES, it really sold it that much more. Plus, there's, like, there's covers that you can get for it that are, like, arcade cabinet covers, so it makes it that much better. So, easily an A tier. I'm only putting it in A tier because I didn't grow up with the NES, and only played it after the fact, but historically and retroactively looking back on it, I understand how great it was. Hello, I'm here. If you have controllers, please, if you have an Ouya controllers, please put an S tier for me. I have no internet. Well, can you hear me though, Wiz? Aren't you on your trip? But yeah, like, I hope you're enjoying yourself though. Like, I know that it's probably going to be a pretty long one. So, we have the Nintendo 64 controller. Oh my gosh. Oh, what am I going to put this in? Yeah, I can hear. Okay, cool. I see your reasoning. I find the NES controller uncomfortable. They did make good progress with it. Yeah, and that's because, like I said, it was like having the arcade in your hand. And that's what I really enjoyed about it. Because I can retroactively see, like, what made it so great. Now, the N64 controller, I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but I'm going to put it in D. Because while I love the N64, the controller was just terrible. Like, there's so many people that I've seen, like, holding it. Yeah, three-handed controller. Like, because I see people holding it, like, on the opposite ends, but in most games you play it from the center and then on the right part. So, like, you use your right hand to hold the right-hand side, and then you'd use your left hand to hold the centerpiece. And it just was not a comfortable controller at all. They were really, really cheaply made, and they broke very easily. Not only that, their joysticks, we were talking about Joy-Con drift. The N64 has, like, the Switch has nothing on N64 drift. Because those joysticks would break fairly easily. Yeah, it's just, I love it. but for like a review sake, it's just not the best controller. Dreamcast, I'll give that a B, because the Dreamcast had like this really interesting idea of adding like a screen. Like you would put like a memory card into the screen so you could play like different bonus games for different Dreamcast titles. So like for example, Skies of Arcadia, there was a little game you could play like on the memory card thing called like Pinta's Adventure or something, and it added like when you did the game, it would add new items into your Skies of Arcadia save file. I didn't really have a lot of experience with it, but I do find it really enjoyable. I don't think anyone truly knows how to hold an N64 controller. They weren't made for humans. They weren't made for spirits either, because look, like, do you see me holding an N64 controller with these nubs? I don't think so. Wii. So, Wii C tier. I love Wii Sports, and I love Smash Brothers Brawl, and there's a lot of Wii titles that I really like, but I just hated the Wii controller. Primarily just because it really didn't have a lot of buttons. Like, of course you had, like, well, I don't even think it's necessarily that it didn't have a lot of buttons, it was just that they were placed really awkwardly. So if you wanted to play Smash Bros, you had to turn it sideways, and you were very limited in the amount of things you could do. Of course, if you had the nunchuck, it was a lot better of an experience because you actually had a thumbstick to work with. But if you're just using the Wii controller, it's really a pain to play Smash Bros. Great console, shitty controller. Like, I love the Wii, but it's just... I think the motion control thing was too soon to have really been fantastic. They were made for squids. I think this is an original Xbox controller, so I'm going to put that in the A tier because I have played with those controllers before. They're better than the Duke, and they were kind of like the precursor to the Xbox 360 controller. Still, I don't have any idea what Microsoft was thinking with the Duke. Like, it was just... It's like, okay, let's look at Nintendo's GameCube controller and how small and fragile it is, and let's, like, take that and make something huge, and that was the Duke. Have you ever played with any PlayStation controllers? No, and that's primarily why I have them in C tier. That's because I don't hate them, and I'm just not familiar with them, so I'm putting them in the C tier just because they're unfamiliar. It's kind of sad how motion controls don't seem to be a thing anymore, even though the Switch supports them. I'll rank the PS4 at S. Yeah, like, I've heard good things about the PS4 controller, but I've never really been a Sony person, so I can't really speak from personal experience. So, take C tier minus the Wiimote as more of just like a never played or never used kind of field. But last but not least, we have the Xbox One controller, which I will also put in A tier, because it was similar enough to the 360, but it was a lot more smooth than the 360 controller, so it was a little more comfortable, but I'm only putting it in the A tier because I've never really used one all that much. I mean, I do have one to replace my old controller from the Devil May Cry streams, but it's mostly just inexperience on my part. And then these two down here, like, these are just ones I'm going to leave here because I don't have a lot of experience with them. Last but not least, if you ignore the Genesis. Yeah, like, that's the thing is, I've never played the Genesis or really any Sega system outside the Dreamcast, so I can't really give an effective, like, opinion on them. And honestly, I could probably do the same thing for the PlayStation, just because I can't really give a good opinion on them because I haven't used them all that much. So, this is my list for controllers. So, let's take a look here. So, rank Nintendo franchises. That's probably going to be a really big one. Oh, it's actually not. So, what I'll do is I'm going to leave the ones that I've never played in the selection area. I just missed your controllers. Aw, I'm sorry, Ginza. You can make a ton of enemies with this one. Well, I'm going to be pretty reasonable about it. Like, a lot of these I surprisingly have not played, and I have a lot of good things to say about a lot of these franchises. So, Advance Wars, I'm going to leave there because I've never played it. Animal Crossing, easily an S tier. Like, Animal Crossing is really simple, It's very like all ages can really appreciate Animal Crossing. A lot of people got in Animal Crossing New Horizons whenever like the pandemic was going on, and it brought a lot of new people to the franchise, myself included. It's just a comfortable experience that you can come home to play and talk to your villagers and your neighbors, and it's just a shame that it kind of lost its popularity. So like, no, and Nintendo stopped updating it because I remember like when everybody, including like celebrities, were playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. And then the other games in the series, most of them are solid A S tiers. I love Animal Crossing. Mine will be Punch Out. I'm going to eyeball your Metroid ring. Yeah, like that's why I'm trying to be like really reasonable about it. Like whenever I've talked about the Sony controllers, it's just more of an inexperience kind of thing. So Bayonetta, I'm gonna give that an A tier, mostly just because I haven't played a lot of it. Bayonetta is by the same director. I think it's Hideaki Kamiya. He's the same guy who did the Devil May Cry series, released the very first game, and also I believe he did Resident Evil 2. I think. Basically, it's like a Devil May Cry, but in like a different context, and that's what I really enjoy about Bayonetta is that it takes a lot of themes and like location themes from Devil May Cry, but I don't really have a lot of experience with it, but I'll give that an A tier. Now, Donkey Kong, I'll give that an A tier just because I haven't played a lot of Donkey Kong games. Donkey Kong Country is a phenomenal experience. Donkey Kong 64 is also a really fun experience if you have the mod that lets you switch characters on the fly. Because I think the worst mistake that Nintendo and Rare made with that game was not allowing you to switch your characters on the fly and having to go back to a location and switch to a character and then go somewhere. It just really was tedious, and that's why I'm going to put it in A tier, just because I haven't played a lot of them, but I do appreciate Donkey Kong. I have not played Well, actually, I have played Dr. Mario, now that I think about it. I'm going to give that one B tier. Like, it's average. Like, I love Dr. Mario, but, I mean, it's kind of... It kind of plays like Tetris a little bit. It's kind of... You get what you pay for kind of thing with Dr. Mario. Like, it's something that you would see in more of like a mobile game or like Pokemon Puzzle League or something. Haven't played much of it, but I do. It is fun. You know, with that mod, I might actually want to play through it. Yeah, like that's probably like if I ever get to Donkey Kong 64, I will probably play it with that mod just because I know how frustrating it can be. B tier because you need more vitamin B. Well, actually, I need more vitamin C, but it's going to be in a B tier. Oh geez, Fire Emblem is right here, but it's like so dark I can't, it's like so light I can't even see it. So I can't give Fire Emblem a ranking because I have not played a Fire Emblem title. So Fire Emblem fans, you're safe for now. F-Zero, I'm gonna give it a B tier, because I like F-Zero and I like Captain Falcon, but I've only ever played a few games, so it's kind of like in the average category for me. And it could just be that I'm not very good at the games, but it's so fast. Like, I can't keep up with what's on screen with F-Zero. It's incredibly fast. Like, I applaud anybody who can play those games legitimately and be able to beat like records and stuff, because it is really hard to keep up with what's going on screen. But F-Zero, B tier, just because I haven't played many of them and I suck at them. Golden Sun, Kid Icarus, I've never played. Kirby, I've never played. There's a lot of stuff that I've not played that people will be surprised that Eno has never touched before. Luigi's Mansion, S tier. Like, I love Luigi's Mansion. That game scared the hell out of me when it first came out. It is really cool to see Luigi kind of in his own outing without being overshadowed by Mario's presence. Like, of course, the whole premise of the first game was to go and find Mario, who was in this mansion, and then you get to see him at the end of the game. But at the same time, it was just nice to see Luigi kind of have his own thing for once, because he kind of got shafted, and a lot of people looked down on Luigi, and I think it was awesome that he got his own experience. Yeah, I haven't played Kirby, though. To be fair, I haven't played Luigi's Mansion. Yeah, I've only played the first game, so I'm really going with this on a first game basis. But Luigi's Mansion has a lot of different sequels, as well as an arcade title, which I think is really cool that Nintendo made an actual arcade machine that I was able to play. Mario and Luigi, I have not played. Mario Kart, I'm gonna put that in A tier, because while I do love Mario Kart, I don't really play it that often. Like it's definitely a good party game for me, but I just haven't really played too much of Mario Kart as far as the franchise is concerned. I never got to play Double Dash because I didn't own it for the GameCube. I do love Mario Kart 8 for the Switch, and I have played Mario Kart Super Circuit in 64. Love those games, but they're definitely not like my favorites, so I'm gonna keep them in A tier. Mario Party, I'm going to give that an S tier. It really depends on which one you're playing. Like, some Mario Parties are better than others, but what I do appreciate is that some of the newer titles have a lot of the mini games from older games. So it's almost like a new and improved version of previous games. And I had a lot of fun playing the newest Mario Party on Switch with friends recently. Easily an S tier. Now, Super Mario, like, no, I'm not going to put it in D tier, S tier. Because, I mean, what else am I going to put Mario in? Like, I know that some people dislike Mario just based on the fact that he's popular. And he has some stinker games, but I think Super Mario as a franchise has so many titles that speak to, like, all ages. And Mario Sunshine and Mario 64 are forever two of my all-time favorite games. Easily an S tier, because some of the few memories that I have of my grandmother I associate with Super Mario 64. So, easily an S tier. Mario Party the Friendship Breaker. Metroid. So, Metroid I am actually going to leave in the I've never played pile, because I have actually never played the Metroid franchise. I have played Super Metroid on the SNES, but I never completed it. So, for now, until I play the Metroid games, it's going to be in the never played tier. Mother? S tier. So, Mother, or rather Earthbound. Earthbound is considered to be one of the greatest RPGs of all time, and I actually was able to play Mother 3 through a translation hack quite a few years back, and I absolutely love the music, the environment, the battle system. It's incredible. Like, I can definitely see where Toby Fox got his inspirations from, because Mother and Earthbound, fantastic games. Nintendo, why are you sitting on these? You have a lot of money to be made here. Check Discord when you can, which is right now, because I can look over onto my phone. I see that you're watching me. Okay, so Paper Mario. I've actually never played a Paper Mario game. Same goes for Pikmin. And again, like, when I was younger, when these franchises were like super, super big in the 2000s, I didn't get a lot of opportunities to play these, because it was really just go to the store, rent what you wanted, and then come back home and play that game for like the week. But like the only time I've ever actually seen Pikmin was, I think, Pikmin 2, and like a cousin or a friend brought it over, and I just was not into it. Like, I know that it's a beloved franchise, and the new one just came out recently, but I've never played Pikmin. Pokemon, S tier. Pokemon was the first JRPG franchise that I got into, and Pokemon is like the best-selling franchise worldwide right now. Easily an S tier. Some games are better than others, like, for sure. Emerald, by far my favorite. So happy that I'm getting to stream that. But there's definitely a few stinkers in there. Like, Sword and Shield had great gameplay, but the story was awful. Like, I did not like how I almost called him Captain. Champion Leon. I did not like how anytime there was a problem, Leon would just come out and, like, it's like, oh, it's too dangerous, you kids need to get away while the champion handles this. It's like, bitch, I literally have a, like, level 100 in all of my party, and you've got your, like, what, level 60 Charizard? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stinkers in the Pokemon franchise, but overall, very solid series. It definitely earned its spot in the S tier. I think there's one you missed, and you call yourself a Nintendo fan. Well, hey, I never, I never once said that I was like the ultimate Nintendo fan. Like, just that I play some of the games. Like, I don't have to live up to this high standard that somebody sets for me. I think there's one you missed. No, well, Golden Sun I've never played. Punch Out. You know, I'm gonna give Punch Out. Uh, oh, that one's hard. I'm gonna probably leave that in B tier because I love Punch Out, but there's just not a lot of Punch Out to play. You've got like a couple games on the Super Nintendo, and then you've got the Wii game, but I love Punch Out, but it's just more of like it wasn't really my thing. Like I like it, but I suck at it. Fun game. The Wii title had a really fun soundtrack, but I've just never really played much of it, so it's gonna go in B tier just on my lack of experience with it. Rhythm Heaven, never played that. Splatoon. Ooh, we're getting into some sticky territory. um, I'd say it's an A. Like, I like Splatoon. It's a fun multiplayer shooter, but I haven't played a whole lot of it. I don't really have a lot of people to play it with, is the thing. Like, I have Splatoon 2, but I haven't really touched it that much. It's really fun, but overall, like, I just didn't really play a lot of it. But I do see how fun it can be, so I'm going to put it in A tier. Honestly, though, Punch-Out deserves another game. Really? You went there? I went where? Because, again, this is all opinion-based stuff, so it's like, this is just my thoughts. Oh, Sticky. Well, hey, I mean, I had to make a joke about something Splatoon related, and I didn't want to go with the white ink joke that everybody makes. If we're gonna be the real, most of Nintendo stuff is quality. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, Nintendo, as much as I hate them as a company, they are really good at making games that you can just pick up and play. Like, they definitely put a lot of effort into the ones that they do make, but there is the occasional stinker. Now, Star Fox, S tier. And I am very biased because Star Fox is my favorite game franchise of all time. I have a Star Fox collection on my shelf behind me. However, Star Fox is extremely neglected by Nintendo and has some pretty terrible titles in its franchise. Star Fox Zero could have been a great game, but it was limited by the fact it wasn't telling a very unique story. It was just retreading old ground with Star Fox 64 in terms of the design of the characters, the music, the environments. Everything was just a retelling of Star Fox 64. I didn't like the control scheme for Zero. Star Fox Command, I just want to forget exists because it was just an all-range mode game. But, however, I think technically the most recently released Star Fox title is actually Star Fox 2, which came out for the Super Nintendo Classic in 2017. So, technically Star Fox has had a game in the last decade, but it just wasn't one that was made for that decade. So, easily an S tier. Star Fox, please come back. We need you. Nintendo as a business is awful, but Nintendo as a game company is one of the best. You know, it's sad because Nintendo probably won't do another Star Fox for a while since they tried so hard with terrible controls for Zero and won't see why it flopped. Yeah, again, that's why I really have trouble like with Nintendo's consoles, is because they try to force their gimmicks that they've created for these consoles into their games. And that's what really turns a lot of people off, especially me, when it comes to those titles like Star Fox Command, initially Skyward Sword, because I didn't like the Wii motion controls. But now, on the Switch, you're able to play Skyward Sword HD, and it's got a much better control scheme. I did try it out briefly, but that is a title that I would like to visit, like, on stream at some point. I have not played the Legendary Starflight. WarioWare, mm, I'm gonna put that in A tier just because like it's a great game series. It's a lot of fun. It's a very good party game. However, WarioWare, I wouldn't put that up with like the likes of the Pokemon franchise or Star Fox or Super Mario. Like it's a great series, but I don't think I don't think it has legendary status, at least not in my eyes. It's a great minigame time waster, but it's not something that I would put like in on the top of my pedestal or my totem pole, if you will. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm going to give that an S tier. Because they have been really solid with Xenoblade lately. Like, all the games so far have been really great. I didn't really see much on Xenoblade Chronicles X, though. So I can't really give an opinion on that game, but phenomenal story. Like, Xenoblade has an amazing story. The characters are just lovable. You really bond with them at an emotional level, and easily an S tier. Xenoblade, probably one of Nintendo's like finest, I would say. Yoshi. So I'm not sure if that's just like if that's including like Yoshi's story or like I'm not sure or like that includes like the Yarn Yoshi or whatever that game was. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a B tier just because I don't have a lot of experience with Yoshi's games. There's not too much I can say on it because I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm gonna give like B is kind of just like the average or I haven't played tier. Okay, yeah, I just don't have a lot of experience with it, so it'll be in the B tier. Legend of Zelda, I mean, easily an S tier. Some of the greatest games ever made are Zelda titles. Tears of the Kingdom, holy crap, they did it again. Easily an S tier. Like, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, like, the music from that game is iconic, and there's literally been orchestras that have played just the soundtrack and people like going to live concerts for the soundtrack. An incredible journey, and just each game really sets itself apart with the tech improvements. Like Breath of the Wild was stunning when it came out, and Wind Waker, like a lot of people hated Wind Waker's art style, but Wind Waker was so fun. Once you get past the art style, it really still had a dark story. It wasn't all cartoony and happy. Like, there was really dark moments in Wind Waker. But that's just naming a couple titles. Like, Majora's Mask, for example. Like, holy crap. Like, not only are you encountering, like, literal zombies in that game, and people that are about to, like, accepting the fact that it's the end of the world and that they're gonna die. Like, that is a extremely dark Zelda title. Phenomenal story with its dark undertones. However, I did not like the time mechanic of Majora's Mask, and that's just because it was annoying, not because it was unnecessary. It's just that I had a terrible time with it. Yeah, Majora's Mask, fantastic game. I love Majora's Mask. So, and the ones down here, never played. So, there's a couple Nintendo franchises that I haven't touched. So, like, Advance Wars, Paper Mario, Pikmin, so on. But this is my Nintendo tier list. But while I look for another one that's a bit shorter, definitely give me some ideas, chat. Stuff that you want to see my opinion on, because I've got quite a bit of stuff that I can do tiers of. And if it's something that you want to see, that's even better. So it's not just video game stuff, it's also movies, TV shows. Like, there's a lot of choices that we can do. There, you've done a good job. Now turn back while you still can. Well, I'm being respectful about it. Like, I'm not, like, trying to force my opinion or anything. Like, this is just my personal thoughts. I already have a biased interest in something. Okay, well, let's hear it. While I look for more. I bet you can guess what it is. Probably not, actually, because it's been quite a long day at work, so I had really bad memory. Okay, so let me open up these two. Let's see, what else do we got here? Yeah, very, very tired, Like, I was outside in the garden section all day today, and it got so hot that we had nobody come in. Like, I had, like, maybe 3 people buy things in, like, the last 2.5 hours of my shift today. You already said you'll get around to them at some point, so it's okay. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I noticed a game. Yeah, what is it, Big? So I'll do these two first, just because I have them open. Ever played Risk of Rain 2? Yeah, I played Risk of Rain 2. Yeah, so I was in the garden section. It was like 95 with a heat index of 102, and I didn't have shorts, so I was in jeans and a polo, and it was not fun. I had like a little desk fan, and that was all I got. So, Call of Duty. This one is probably the most controversial list that I've done so far, and I don't care because I don't really play Call of Duty anymore. I did a lot when I was a teenager and into my 20s a little bit, but I don't really play the COD franchise anymore because the games are just too damn big nowadays. Like 200 gigs for one game is just too much for my hard drives. While I can do it, I'd just rather not dedicate that much space to just a COD title. I much prefer the older titles, which are like 20 gigs or like 50 at most. Now I want to know how you classify Risk of Rain 2 items. I need to give you a bigger fan. Yeah, it was just a desk fan with the AC unit. So, Call of Duty. I'm sure you've heard of the franchise before. It's a fairly popular first-person shooter franchise that brings in billions of dollars every year. So, Call of Duty, my old friend. First one up on the list, it looks to be Black Ops 2. That one's actually an S tier. Black Ops 2 had phenomenal multiplayer, so much customization, and the zombies in Black Ops 2, while I did not like the transit characters, I really loved Black Ops 2's story. Primarily just because like Black Ops 2 was kind of like the culmination of the games before it, starting in World at War. It takes place in 2025, which is in 2 years, which is scary to think about. And the music, the setting, everything. I loved how you could take the futuristic weapons into the past, and you could use like the thermal sniper rifle to shoot an enemy through like a debris in the 1980s. It's really cool that you get to do that, and seeing Mason and all these other classic characters again was really fun. Black Ops 2, easily an S tier. It was a lot of fun. What is this Call of Duty? Okay, Home Depot literally sells heavy-duty fans. Why can't they give you one for work? Good question. There is a heavy-duty fan outside, like in the entrance area of the garden. The problem is that it just blows hot air, so it doesn't actually do me any good. There is an AC unit in the booth that I'm in, but the sun directly hits it, so it's pretty terrible, to be honest. Okay, so I think this one's Infinite Warfare. The picture's really small, so I can't tell. I have never played Infinite Warfare. I know that it's really divisive because like they took the whole like going into the future thing of Black Ops 2 and they cranked it up to 11 because it takes place in like a distant future where like different planets and stuff are being colonized, and there was a lot of criticism that it was copying Halo Reach for a lot of its design philosophy. I've never played it, so I can't really give it a proper review. And the same thing goes for Advanced Warfare. I've never played that one either. I have watched gameplay of it. It is the origin of the press F to pay respects meme. But again, I never played Advanced Warfare. I can't really tell you if it's any fun or not. So that one's just up in the air. And it looks like we've got Call of Duty 2. That one is going to go into the A tier. Because that was actually the first console Call of Duty game I played. I played it on the Xbox, or the Xbox 360 at an after-school program, and I just loved the gameplay. It was really fast-paced, but there's no sprint. So, like, if you expect to go into Call of Duty 2 and sprint your way around the map, that mobility system had not been implemented yet, and I think it was one of the last Call of Duty games to actually have health packs as a way to heal rather than the instantaneous, like, go to cover, wait till your screen stop being red healing system. Call of Duty 3, see, that one I have played, but I don't remember a lot of it, so I'm going to keep it in the never played category just because while I have played Call of Duty 3, I don't remember a lot of it. I'm pretty sure it's fairly good, but it's just I'm gonna keep it in the never played category because I don't have really very many clear memories of it. Like Modern Warfare 2, that's what got me good back then. Yeah, Modern Warfare 2 came out when I was in the 8th grade. I remember like everyone was talking about that game and how like and I remember like there were so many kids in my classes that were bragging about like, oh, I'm 5th prestige already, and like they were completely bullshitting their rank. I did too, but I mean, I didn't actually have Xbox Live, so I couldn't really play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 online. But speaking of Modern Warfare, the next one on the list is actually Call of Duty 4. That one is easily an S tier because that one, like I think it was '07, so that came out the same year as Halo 3, and that was probably the biggest competition in gaming that year, which was Halo versus COD, because two of their biggest games ever came out the same year. Call of Duty 4 I love because it was the first time a COD game had gone into the modern era, even if that modern era is no longer modern because I think like a lot of the stuff that happens in that game take place in like 2011, 2008, something like that. Love the story of Call of Duty 4. Love the environment and weapons. The gameplay is fantastic. They took everything that made the previous games good and made it that much better. I just remember playing through like the Chernobyl and Pripyat missions over and over again because I love the stealth sections. And I just love playing as young Captain Price. Like, Captain Price is just a really great hero. So that's easily an S tier. The original Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 1 were the ones I played the most. The original Modern Warfare series was fun. Yeah, like, I loved the Chernobyl missions in Call of Duty 4, which is kind of how I learned about, like, the Chernobyl accident and stuff. So, S tier for Modern Warfare. I have not played the remastered version of it, but I'm sure there's probably not too many differences that would really change my ranking. I think this is Black Ops 4 down here, and I'm going to put that in never played because I have never played Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I know that there was a lot of criticism with this game because they completely cut out the story mode, and there was just the multiplayer and Blackout, because that was when Battle Royale was starting to get really popular, and the implementation of its movement system, like they were originally going to do something like Black Ops 3 with like the hyper mobility, but they decided to change that last minute because that's what the fans didn't want. So Blackout was really the selling point for that one, as well as Zombies mode, which Zombies mode, I feel like they really got to up the ante with Call of Duty Zombies because lately it just seems like they're retreading old ground because like World at War was special and the Zombies mode was special because it was unexpected, because you would beat the campaign mode of World at War and then you would get put into Nocturne Toten right after the credits. So it was a mode that wasn't even advertised and it just threw you into it. But Zombies mode has really turned into this like multi-dimensional nonsense story that, while interesting, has really like it's getting convoluted and hard to follow with all these different dimensions and stuff. Like, I shouldn't have to go watch like a 2-hour video explaining the lore of COD Zombies just to understand like why I'm playing the map that I'm playing. But I'm gonna keep it never played because I don't want to rank it if I have not played it. The story of making the Pripyat level was interesting too. Yeah, the Nuke Aftermath mission too. Yeah, like I loved, like Call of Duty 4 just had so many great missions. Like in the AC-130 mission, loved it. The Predator drone, loved it. Well, I think the Predator was actually in the second game. So Call of Duty Ghosts, that one, you love it or hate it. They reused a lot of assets from Modern Warfare 2. There was a lot of criticism about the fish AI because they were bragging about how, oh, these fish are dynamic, they'll swim away if you get too close to them. And then the relationship with, I think, Riley the German Shepherd. But I've never played COD Ghosts. I know that they tried their own Zombies mode with Extinction, but I just never really played Call of Duty Ghosts, so I can't really give too much of an opinion on it. Same thing goes for the reboot new Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Too much space on the hard drive, but I do know that it's a really solid game. But again, never played it, so I can't give an opinion on it. Modern Warfare 3, that one is, I'm going to say that's I'm going to put that in C tier, because while I did enjoy Modern Warfare 3 for it being a Modern Warfare game, They really didn't add too many new things from Modern Warfare 2 that really set it apart. Like, it just felt like treading the same ground over again. It did have that survival mode where you were doing wave-based combat, which was really fun. I had a lot of fun with it, but again, it's a C tier just because I don't feel like they added too much to the game that really changed the elements up enough from Modern Warfare 2. But now, we're going to put World at War in S tier, and we're going to call it a day and move on to the next one. Okay, so World at War, the reason I'm giving that an S tier is because World at War it took Call of Duty 4's, like, gameplay mechanics and engine and brought that back in time to the World War II formula. Like, they didn't change it too much, and it played like a mixture of Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 4 all into one. I especially enjoyed how they didn't censor anything in that game, and it told a really brutal World War II story. Like, you can blow enemies' arms or heads off with the rifles instead of them just keeling over and dying like in Modern Warfare with a blood splatter. They were not afraid to show you, like, the horrors of war. Like, every mission there, like, just shows you how devastating World War II was. And the fact that this was the game that started it all with the zombies mode. Because, like I said, Call of Duty Zombies, like, it just starts at the end of the campaign after the credits. Like, it just throws you into Nocturne Toten. Because, I mean, this wasn't advertised so very well. So, like, you just play the campaign, and then you get thrown into zombies. You don't know what's going on. So after that, they added a bunch of other DLC maps, and each of them was really great, iconic as far as zombies maps are concerned for Call of Duty. They've been remade more times than I can count. But easily an S tier because Call of Duty World at War also has a really fun modding community as well. So there's a lot of really fun custom maps you can play. I enjoyed the survival mode back when I played it. I think that's how a proper war game should be. It should be as much horror as it is a shooter. Precisely, yeah, like, it told a war story and it was not afraid to tell that war story. Because, like, a lot of these World War II and shooters and, like, these FPS games that take place in certain real-life conflicts, they really don't show you the horror of it. It's really arcadey, but World at War was really, like, it took that concept and turned it on its head, and it's like, this is how terrible war actually is. This is the closest you ever want to get to war. So that's what I appreciate about World at War. I do not regret getting it when I was younger. I love that game, and I always will. COD World War II, never played that one. Again, that was kind of in, like, the beginning of the end as far as, like, the file sizes and just the fact that Activision never discounts their games. So, like, for example, COD Black Ops 2 is still $60 on Steam, and it came out 10 years ago. Or actually more than 10 years ago. And that's the problem that I have with the series in general, is that it's hard to get a hold of these games unless you have a lot of money, because they never discount them. Even Call of Duty 4 is still like $20 on Steam, and I think that's ridiculous. Like, that's why I hope with, like, this whole Activision, like, Microsoft deal that maybe, like, discounts can become a thing in the future, because, like, they're just really stingy with offering these things on discount. I enjoy the documentaries that don't shy away from it as well. Call of Duty Black Ops, that one is easily an S tier, because it took everything that World at War had built on and continued it into the Cold War era. So it wasn't quite Modern Warfare, but it wasn't quite a World War II shooter either. Black Ops, allegedly, in the advertising, they said that there was a lot of this stuff that, a lot of these missions were declassified and, like, taken creative liberties, so some of these things did actually happen, but, like, in a really skewed version, like, into a story that's entertaining. So Black Ops, I really love the multiplayer for it. Probably my favorite as far as all the games are concerned multiplayer-wise. Well, I did like Black Ops 2. Black Ops 1, I just loved how if you played it split screen on the Xbox without being connected to live, you could create, like, you could create your class with any weapon, any power-up. You didn't have to unlock them, which was great. And that was the problem that I had with Modern Warfare 2, is that you had to unlock all this stuff. But in Black Ops, offline play, you had it all unlocked, so you didn't have to worry about it. Plus, if you played on the PC version, you can play with bots. I think you can do it on the 360 version too, but you can play with bots online, and the bots are actually your Steam friends. So it'll make bots of, like, each one of your Steam friends list, which is pretty cool, because it's as if you're playing with your entire Steam friends list. Zombies mode, fantastic. Like, 5 is fantastic. Kino der Toten is by far my favorite zombies map. What more can I say about Black Ops? It's fantastic. Call of Duty 1. The one that started it all. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? What do the letters mean? So I'm actually going to put this in B tier, because I do remember playing this back in the day, but this was right after Infinity Ward was formed. Like, Medal of Honor Allied Assault's last expansion had just come out. And Call of Duty, you can actually run the game by changing the executable name to Medal of Honor Allied Assault.exe if you're having trouble with it. But while I did love it, like, I guess when I was a kid and played it, like, I just felt like it was trying to be Medal of Honor and just wasn't. Don't really have a lot of previous, like, recent experience with it, so I'll put it in B tier just because I haven't played it in a long time and don't really have a desire to touch it. Black Ops 3, A tier. So the reason I'm putting that in A tier is because Black Ops 3 has some of the... In fact, it has the best modding for any of the games in the entire series. Because it has Steam Workshop support. Years after the game came out, like 2017, 2018, Treyarch released the Zombie Chronicles DLC, which remade and remastered a bunch of maps from the previous games in the series. So you got to play like all of the World at War maps, you got to play most of the Black Ops 1 maps, and one of the Black Ops 2 maps, and fans are recreating the missing maps on the Steam Workshop. Like Call of the Dead got remade, Nuketown Zombies got remade, Transit's being remade, Buried's being remade. Not only that, because of the Steam Workshop support, it's really easy to install mods. So if you want to play a map, or if you want to like do a weapon pack, so if you want to play Black Ops 3 with World at War weapons and the animations, you can. Modern Warfare weapons, you can. It's just, overall, it's a great experience as far as the modding is concerned. The only problem I have is that the story is garbage. Like, if I were to put this just by story, I would put this easily in a D tier. But the only reason it's A tier is because of the modding and the zombies. The campaign mode is just, it's a horrible story. Like, I don't even recommend looking it up. It's convoluted, it's boring, it doesn't make any sense at all. Great game, terrible story. Like, that's probably the best way I can summarize it. Now, Modern Warfare 2, S tier. And I'm not just saying that to be part of the bandwagon. I had a lot of fun with Modern Warfare 2, but I do have some issues with it. Modern Warfare 2, I think the biggest problem I had was the unlocks, and also the perks. So, for example, if I were to go into just a random match online in Modern Warfare 2, the problem is that I would encounter a lot of people who had, like, these really unfair perks, like stopping power and a bunch of other things, and I had, like, practically nothing and the starter weapons. So I felt really bad about playing games with people because I would just get steamrolled because of these perks. Had a lot of fun with it. Really incredible story, like General Shepard, like, betraying the team. Like, that was something that I did not see coming. I really liked the whole team up with Makarov and Captain Price and Soap. And just the whole, like, last battle between Shepard, Price, and Soap, where Soap throws the knife at Shepard and hits him in the eye regardless of where you throw the knife. Like, and museum mode. Museum mode was cool because you could just, like, you got, like, a literal diorama of all the missions, and you got NPCs, and you got to try out all the weapons. But S tier for Modern Warfare 2. That's why I can never get into COD multiplayer. Yeah, like, the perks really were a big turnoff, at least for me. But yeah, that is my Call of Duty tier list. Okay, now we're getting into Resident Evil. Woohoo! Because we've been playing Resident Evil 6 lately, so we're getting into the Resident Evil series. Okay. And again, I'm going to leave, since this doesn't have a... Well, can I actually change that? Okay. This will be never played. I didn't know that I could change the text row. Oh, I accidentally added a new row. Okay, so... Never played. Alright, so this one is... I can't tell based on just the logo on this one. Let me see. I think that's... Is that Umbrella Chronicles? because Code Veronica's over here. I think that one's either the Umbrella Chronicles or Darkside Chronicles. But oh, hey Blaze, welcome to the stream. Just doing tier lists and then some edutainment games afterward. Just a chill one. I wanted to get a stream in before the week officially ended. But yeah, I'm just doing some tier lists. You're more than welcome to suggest one. But these are just my personal thoughts, so don't take them at face value. These are just my personal opinions. You're welcome to disagree. So I believe, I don't know if this has the other remake of Resident Evil 1. I think this is just kind of a generic, like, Resident Evil 1 as a package rather than just one individual title. But Resident Evil 1, easily an S tier. If we're talking the original PlayStation title, like, it has some of the corniest dialogue ever, but some of the scariest environments of its time. Like, it really set the standard for survival horror. Like, Resident Evil is a household name when it comes to the survival horror franchise, or series, or not franchise, genre. I don't know where my words are coming from. Obviously not my mouth. Resident Evil 1, fantastic game. I struggle with the tank controls. I'm not very good at it, but it is, honestly, it still holds up today if you're playing the remake. The dialogue still has its unique corniness, but the first Resident Evil game, by far, like, is the most iconic of the entire franchise, because Jill Sandwich, like, anyone who's a Resident Evil fan knows about Jill Sandwich. Just take a look at this. It's Forrest. Oh god, it looks like he was killed by a crow or something. So I can't read the title on this one. I'm assuming that's the Umbrella Chronicles. I've never actually played that one. I do own it, but I have never played it. And that's one that I do intend to play on stream at some point, because I have both Darkside and Umbrella Chronicles, which are rail shooter games that retell the events of some of the older titles in the franchise. Now, Resident Evil 2 Remake, easily an S tier. Like, that was my favorite game of 2019. I did not grow up with Resident Evil 2, unfortunately, so this was my first experience playing the Resident Evil 2 storyline. And while there is quite a few issues with it, such as the A and B storylines essentially not changing much of the gameplay at all and missing the point, it just had so much bonus content that there's just hours and hours of gameplay. Like, you had the tofu minigame, you had the Ghost Survivors, the Force Survivor. Overall, S tier. Like, fantastic game. If you can get it on sale, highly recommend picking it up. It's scary, it's fun, and has a lot of content that keeps you coming back. I've only ever played 4 and 7. Well, hey, I'm going to give my opinions on them here soon. Resident Evil Gaiden, I have not played that one. There's a lot of, like, obscure Resident Evil titles. Like, Resident Evil Gaiden was a Game Boy Color title, but I can only, like, I mean, you could just, like, by saying that, you could probably imagine how playing that must have felt. Because while there was a remake, or not a remake, but a port, or a recreation, or whatever you want to call it, of the original Resident Evil planned for the Game Boy, but it was never released, and there's only prototype ROMs that have leaked online. Really cool that they were trying to do that for the Game Boy Color, but the technology really just didn't exist at the time for it to be an enjoyable experience, at least in my opinion. So, again, it's really hard. Oh, that's Resident Evil Outbreak. So, I have never played Resident Evil Outbreak. I know it's really good. I have both Volume 1 and 2. I've just never played Resident Evil Outbreak, but I heard they're really good. So, that's something that I may attempt at some point. Because it also has a multiplayer mode, so I can actually play with other people. So I could get, like, my brother to play that with me if I wanted to. Ah, yes, the tofu experience. Only one I played is 2, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, there are some games in here that are definitely scarier than others, but Resident Evil 2 Remake is probably one of the scarier ones. Just because, like, in RE6, like, you're just, like, kung fu fighting these zombies and, like, kicking their heads off. But then in RE2 Remake, it just slows you down so much that even one zombie taking, like, 6 shots to the head and it still gets back up. It's terrifying. So this one is another Chronicles game. I have not played either of the Chronicles games. And some of these, like, it's just a little hard for me to read which... Because the picture of the logo is just so small that it's hard for me to actually see which game it is. So like I'm not sure which one this is. I think that might be one of like the really weird, obscure ones, but I'm gonna put that in never played. Same thing with Revelations 2. I've never played the Revelations games. I do own them, but I've never touched them. Oh god, Umbrella Corps. That one's getting an E tier. So Umbrella Corps was Capcom's attempt to kind of do like a multiplayer tactical shooter Resident Evil, which they did do that in Operation Raccoon City. Like this was kind of like a spiritual successor to Operation Raccoon City. But overall, it was not fun. Like I think like anytime Capcom makes a good Resident Evil game, like I feel like the team is contractually obligated to create a shitty multiplayer experience to bundle along with it. Because there's also Resident Evil Reverse, which I don't see on this list anywhere, which was bundled with Resident Evil Village, and then before that there was Resident Evil. I don't even remember the name of it. There was like Resistance, Resident Evil Resistance, which is a multiplayer Dead by Daylight-esque title. Again, I can't tell which one this is, just based on the image itself, so I'll leave that one there for now. Resident Evil 3, S tier. Like, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, like, you expect to go in... Like, if you played Resident Evil 2 before that and expect to go into Nemesis and steamroll everything, you've got another thing coming. Because Nemesis is a phenomenal villain of the time. Like, he really lives up to his name. Like, and you definitely feel, like, that sense of... Like, you get that feeling of... That rewarding feeling whenever you take him down. You get that upgrade or you get that special item from him. And the fact that you had the choice system where you... Like, do I run into the RPD? Do I fight him? Do I run this way? Do I go that way? It gave you multiple different not endings necessarily, but different paths that you could take, and I really loved that. And Nemesis just like being able to like call you out on your bullshit. So like if you're like hiding behind like a room where he's shooting you, he'll realize that and he'll just charge you and hit you with his rocket launcher. So easily an S tier. Resident Evil Nemesis is fantastic. Oh no, the next one is Resident Evil 6. Oh jeez. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a D tier. The only reason I'm not giving it an E tier is because while I dislike Resident Evil 6 a lot, there is still some fun to be had with this game. So, Mercenaries mode, really fun. Like, I love the Mercenaries in this game. The movement system and the combat system is perfect for Mercenaries mode, not so much for an actual story. I feel like if Capcom had taken this gameplay system and made like a separate zombie game, like say a Dead Rising spin-off, that would have made it a lot better. But the biggest problem with Resident Evil 6 is its lack of focus, because they were trying to appease every single Resident Evil fan and every single audience. So it's like, oh, we got fans that love action. Okay, we'll put in action. Oh, we got fans who want zombies again. Okay, let's put zombies in there. Oh, we like the co-op experience from RE5. Well, let's make every campaign co-op, including Ada's, who's supposed to be canon alone during her story. RE6, there is fun to be had, but it is a very frustrating experience. Like, the story is all over the place. Leon's campaign tried to be scary, but failed. Chris's campaign, which I'm playing currently on stream with my brother, it's basically just Call of Duty Gears of War. Jake's campaign is a clusterfuck, which I will just leave for whenever I stream that. And Ada's campaign is probably the best one in terms of like it's got its footing, so to speak. Like it's in a good spot. Like it's not like trying to be like overly actiony. It has the classic puzzles and it's got some stealth segments, but again, it's going to be in D tier just because Resident Evil 6. I mean, is there more to be said? So it overextended itself, absolutely. Now, RE7, that one is also an S tier. RE7 single-handedly saved the Resident Evil franchise. They advertised it really well, I think. Like, they kind of played it off like it was a PT type game, which I guess it kind of ended up being. But I remember when they showed the demo off at E3 2016, 2017, something like that. And the way that it started was very similar to Silent Hill's PT, like waking up on a floor and going and exploring the house. So I thought, like, like, did they reboot PT? And then at the very end, when they showed the logo for RE7, like, the crowd went wild. It's like, when you play RE7, like, and you play through it up until a certain point, you really don't tell that it's in the same universe as Resident Evil 6. It's just such a good self-contained story. And I feel like Ethan really, like, I love him as a character because he's not an ex-cop, he's not like BSAA, he's not some special forces person or like related to Wesker. Like, he's just some IT department guy who just happened to have his wife kidnapped and got himself involved in stuff he probably shouldn't have gotten involved with. So easily an S tier. It's probably the scariest one that I've played. Highly recommend Resident Evil 7, and if you can get the VR mod to work, definitely play it. Like, everything up here is a must play that I would recommend. Honestly, weirdly enough, 7 was my first real RE experience, and I loved it. Yeah, Resident Evil 7 was fantastic. Like, they changed from the third-person action perspective of RE6, and then they came with a more grounded approach and a new perspective in first person, which really changed a lot of what made Resident Evil, but it was a return to form that it really needed and allowed the Resident Evil 2 remake to be as successful as it was. Because the RE engine is beautiful, for one. Like, there are times in Resident Evil 7, to this day, I still wonder if it's in-game graphics or if it's real life that they just scanned in. It just looks phenomenal. Like, RE7, especially with the new ray tracing update, definitely play it. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one, but I have actually never played Code Veronica. I do own it, but I have never played Code Veronica X. I know that's one I need to get to because it's a fan favorite, but I have never played Code Veronica. Konami canceling Silent Hills was basically giving Capcom free money. This one's another one I have not played. Gun Survivor, Resident Evil Survivor. Never played that one, but I saw AVGN do a video on it, and that's really all I need to know. Resident Evil 2, I'm also going to give that an S tier along with Resident Evil 2 Remake because not just, and I'm definitely biased because that's also where Leon's story started, but it took everything that the original game had and made it better. Because Resident Evil 2 had the A and B scenarios where, say for example, Claire goes into the RPD and picks up like a machine gun or picks up an item. That item will no longer be available for the other characters. So like if Leon, you were really hoping to get that SMG or that other item, you won't be able to get it because Claire got it. So there's a lot of like cross-continuity with it that didn't appear in the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I really appreciate about the original, and I also recommend really playing that one. Any copy that you can really get a hold of, because even the N64 copy is still worthwhile because they were able to fit all of that onto a cartridge. I love that every game in this list is either S tier or haven't played except for RE6 and Umbrella Corps. Yeah, like I own most, if not every Resident Evil. Well, I own every Resident Evil title on Steam, but there's a lot of them that I haven't played just for the fact that I was never a Sony person, so I never got the chance to play them. Operation Raccoon City, that one's going with Umbrella Chronicles, because I defended that game at first. I thought that it got a bad reputation and that people were just like giving it flack because it was a squad shooter. No, it was that bad. Operation Raccoon City you can't actually purchase on Steam anymore if that doesn't tell you enough about the quality of its gameplay. Even on the easy difficulty, that game is next to fucking impossible. I like the concept and the character designs, but it's just not a good game, and I would not recommend playing it. If you can find like a used copy somewhere and you want to play it for just like shits and giggles, go ahead, but just be prepared to die in the first few segments of the game. This is another Resident Evil Outbreak. Have not played that. Resident Evil 4, also an S tier. Loved Resident Evil 4. I mean, there's not too much more that I can say compared to the other games, but Resident Evil 4, while deviating from the horror element, adding the action, like the corny, like one-liners from Leon. Like, it wasn't so ridiculous that it was Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6 level. RE4 has been ported to pretty much every console in existence. I wouldn't be surprised if someone didn't backport that to the N64 or PlayStation 1. RE4, I have the VR version of it that I'm going through as well. I definitely recommend RE4. Any version that you can get. There's an HD project that makes the game like shine even more in the modern era. Plus RE4 Remake, which is not on this list. I would also recommend playing that as well. It wasn't necessary for the game to have a remake because it still plays really well today. But Resident Evil 4, on its own, the original title is iconic. It was the game of the year for the year it came out. And any chance you can get a hold of a copy of it, I highly recommend playing RE4, even if you haven't played any of the other games in the series. There is a fan-made RE4. Yeah, that's what I kind of expected, because this game is on everything. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't port it to a calculator. Like, it's only second to Doom in the amount of ports it has. Resident Evil 5. I'm going to give it a B tier. Because Resident Evil... Yeah, I'm going to keep it on B tier. So, Resident Evil 5 tried to take what Resident Evil 4 did and make lightning strike twice, essentially. The co-op element was really fun. It's honestly a really fun party game to play. Like, if I'm playing something with co-op with somebody, like, it's just fun to run through. Like, it's not scary at all, and it's a pretty approachable title for somebody who's never played a Resident Evil game. There's a couple body horror scenes in it, but it's not really that drastic and crazy compared to some of the other games in the series. Really fun gameplay, but it's really just more of Resident Evil 4 with a new coat of paint, so I'm going to keep that in B tier, even if I really do love it for the memes and Chris Boulder punching Redfield. RE0, I have not played RE0. Mercenaries 3D, I'm going to keep that in C tier, because Mercenaries 3D was essentially started out as a Resident Evil 5 port for the 3DS, but essentially Capcom was testing the waters to see what it would be like to put that technology on the 3DS, and the tech demo eventually became its own separate game called the Mercenaries 3D. So basically it's just a port of RE5's Mercenaries mode onto the 3DS, but it added new characters, and you could play through some of the RE4 missions as well. But there's really not a lot to see there other than that. It's really just the Mercenaries mode, as the name implies, so it's not really that crazy. But playing it with an increased resolution with the Cetra emulator makes it more of an experience akin to RE5, but there's nothing too special with it. It's just kind of there. But this is my Resident Evil tier list. 4 was fun, but mildly frustrated. Third-person horror is not as scary and still has an air of eeriness, but wasn't too frightened. Puts you in situations. Yeah. So I'll do 2 more tier lists, and then I'm going to get to my edutainment games. I'm going to see what other game lists they have. If not, then I'll go to the main menu and kind of see like what other tier lists I can go off of. Video game franchises 300 plus. How about no? I mean, I don't want to be sitting here for like 6 hours doing that. It's a lot of them are like some of the same ones just repeating over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to go to the main screen and just kind of look at other Genshin Impact templates. Let's go to Cartoon Network programming, because a lot of what I do is nostalgia, and I grew up with Cartoon Network, so this might be a good one to kind of like get off of the game topic for a little bit. So bad, they're good movie tier list. Risk of Rain items. Well, I'd love to do the Risk of Rain one, but the problem is I don't know a lot of the item names. So I don't know if I could give like a really good list without like embarrassing myself. Because I couldn't actually name any of the Risk of Rain 2 items like off the top of my head. Okay. So these are Cartoon Network programming. So these are like pretty much all of Cartoon Network shows, and this is a fairly big list. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the ones I have not seen. Is that a pup named Scooby-Doo? So, Pup Named Scooby-Doo, I don't remember a lot of it, but it was pretty mediocre. Um, like, there was a reason people didn't like Scrappy, and I feel like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was kind of trying to, like, appeal to the audience that really likes Scrappy, but I didn't really like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo because it kind of defeated the purpose of the actual Scooby-Doo series, because it's like if they all did this when he was a kid or puppy, then what's the point of doing it as adults? Oh, hey, Cranberry, welcome to the stream. I saw your photo chain. I haven't gotten the chance to look at it just yet, but I will after the stream. Welcome, welcome. I'm just doing some tier lists, and then after that, I'm going to be doing some edutainment games. So, Adventure Time. That one is 100% an S tier, because Adventure Time, it has so many amazing voice actors in it. Like, Ron Perlman as the Lich is just intimidating. I love Adventure Time. Like, at first glance, you might think it's just like a stupid kids show, but really, Adventure Time is a very dark and disturbing show. Like, they deal with eldritch gods, different dimensions. The entirety of the world of Adventure Time is set 1,000 years after World War III. There's different episodes that do flashbacks of like the past, like shortly after the war, where there's zombies and stuff. It is an amazing show. Like, not a lot of people looking at it would know that it's a post-apocalyptic show, and it's fantastic. Like, Adventure Time, definitely worth a watch if you get the opportunity. Yeah, I love Adventure Time. Yeah, I understand the art style. Like, it can kind of turn people off, but overall, Adventure Time is fantastic. Because some of these that I'm seeing here are like more recent ones. Like after I stopped watching Cartoon Network. The Amazing World of Gumball. I'm gonna give it a great tier. Gumball was, I think it's still ongoing, but it was more of a recent one compared to the ones that I watched. But as an adult, like, I actually do enjoy Gumball because of the way that they animate it and the jokes they make. Because it seems that the creators of this show are definitely gamers, or at the very least nerds, because in a lot of episodes they reference pop culture, like Gumball turns into a Super Saiyan in one, and there's another episode with Halloween where one of the characters is the Majora's Mask Moon going down on Clocktown's tower. Gumball's hilarious and the style's unique. Yeah, I love Gumball. It's genuinely got some really funny moments in it too. Yeah, like Gumball, like out of all of Cartoon Network's like portfolio, like definitely give Gumball a watch as well. The only reason it's an A tier and not S tier is because while I do love Gumball, I just didn't really get to see like a lot of the series, and it doesn't really hold that same nostalgic feeling in my heart as some of these other ones do. But an A tier is still really good. Some of these, like these ones I have not seen. Baby Looney Tunes. That one was bad. Baby Looney Tunes, I remember liking it when I was little, but Baby Looney Tunes is essentially the same sin that Pup Named Scooby-Doo made. So essentially the whole concept is that like Tweety Bird's, like the granny from I think it was Tweety Bird's show, she is essentially watching over all these baby Looney Tunes. So like you got Bugs, Tasmanian Tiger, I think Yosemite Sam is in there a little bit, but it was really like cutesy, and it could have been done well if it wasn't Looney Tunes characters. But I feel like they were just kind of ripping on Tiny Toons a little bit, because it's like, what's the point of having baby Looney Tunes if you've already got Tiny Toons? Like, just come on, Cartoon Network. Batman Beyond. So I'm going to give that an A tier. Because Batman Beyond, its whole concept is like, this is the future, and this is a new Batman that's kind of taking over Bruce Wayne's mantle. I think that Bruce Wayne is still alive in this timeline, but he's just so elderly that he's not able to really fight crime anymore. So Batman Beyond is kind of like his protege, from what I remember, and kind of taking up the mantle of the Bat after Bruce Wayne no longer is able to carry that mantle. So this one I think is the Batman animated series on Cartoon Network. I have never seen this one. I've seen bits and pieces like clips, but I've never actually watched it. Ben 10, I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna put that in B tier, the original Ben 10, because I did find enjoyment of it. I really liked the whole idea of like the Omnitrix being this special watch that has the DNA of a lot of aliens in it, and he can just transform into any of them at will. And it kind of like made him his own superhero. Like, it had a lot of really cool moments in it, but again, it was still like there was still a lot of cutesiness to it. But there were some pretty serious episodes. Like one of like his aliens actually, I think, escaped from the Omnitrix or something, like a ghost, and started haunting him. But I mean, it also portrayed the fact that Ben was still like a kid. He was 10 years old, and he got all this responsibility put on him. I did not watch any of the sequel series or reboots, so the original Ben 10, I did watch a little bit of it, but I don't like. It was just it was okay. Like it's not anything to write home about. Never got into into Ben 10, so it would be a C or D tier. All right, I'll be in several minutes. Oh, no problem, Big. I'll probably still be here on this list. More Batman that I've never seen. Camp Lazlo. You see, it's hard because like I look at these and I remember how much I enjoyed them as a kid, but as an adult looking back on them, I have to like be really. I have to be realistic and critique them like as they are, not as how I remember them. So Camp Lazlo, I'd say, was kind of a mediocre. Like it was enjoyable, but it was really just like stupid slapstick humor and like inappropriate, like gross out humor a lot of the time. And I do like how at the end of the series, they dropped the bombshell where Lumpus, the camp counselor, was actually just some random dude who like beat up and took over the position and like locked up the real camp counselor in a closet somewhere. And that camp counselor was Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life. Don't know how they managed to do that, but that was a nice little crossover between Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. Even if it wasn't like super official and they didn't name him by name, it's fairly obvious that's what it was supposed to be. And I believe this next one is Captain Planet. So I have actually not watched a lot. I have watched Captain Planet, but I don't really remember it that much. So I'm going to put that in the never watched category, but I do know that Captain Planet is beloved. I know that it's iconic, but I have never actually watched a lot of it. Okay, I had no idea Camp Lazlo had a twist ending like that. Yeah, Camp Lazlo, like, there were some really weird episodes of it. Like, there was an episode where, Lumpus had, like, went to a restaurant or something and couldn't pay the bill, so he was afraid that the waiter was going to chainsaw his head off and mount him onto the wall, like, because he was a buck. Or no, he was a moose. So I remember at the end of that episode, like, the manager recognizes Lumpus and is like, waiter? And he's terrified because he thinks he's going to get chainsawed. But in reality, like, I think he just, like they cut a hole in the wall and mounted him that way. So he was fine. It's just that he, like, had to stick his head through the wall and, like, do something. I don't remember. Chop Sucky Chooks. Did not watch that one. Chowder. Chowder. I don't remember a lot of Chowder. I'm gonna put it in mediocre because while I don't remember a lot of it, I do remember when I was in the age range of this show that I did not like it. That does not mean that it's a bad show. It's just that I don't have a lot of experience watching it, so I can't really give a solid opinion on it. But I just remember when I was a kid, I really didn't really like Chowder all that much. I found it annoying, so I'm going to put it in C. I haven't watched that one. Is that Class of 3000? I can't tell if that's Class of 3000 or not, but that's if that is what it is, that's Andre 3000 from Outcast doing an animated series. But I never watched Class of 3000, if that's what that is. I can't remember if that was a Cartoon Network or Nick thing. Colliding with a Chance of Meatballs. That one is going to go in... I don't know if that's the movie or if it's the TV show, but never seen it. I have read the book, though. Because there's actually 2 Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs books. But I've never seen the movie, never seen the show, so I can't give an opinion on it. Wait, Code Lyoko was Cartoon Network? I could have sworn that was Nickelodeon. Code Lyoko, I'm actually going to give that an A tier. The animation style is off-putting. Actually, no, I'm going to put that in a B tier. Because Code Lyoko has a pretty solid story, but the 3D animation style really turns me off. It reeks of early CGI. Great soundtrack. I had a lot of really good storyline moments, but I'm just gonna keep it in B tier just because like the art style really was a turnoff for me, even whenever I watched it. Codename Kids Next Door. That one is getting an S tier because I remember Codename Kids Next Door. This was 2001, I think, is when it premiered. So there was this whole episode in the pilot where they were going to raid the adults' pool in order to get into Adult Swim. So the whole concept of that episode was that the adults were preventing the kids from swimming in the pool because it was Adult Swim. And then shortly after that, the Adult Swim block happened on Cartoon Network. So I always thought that this episode was an introduction to Adult Swim because it happened at the same time. Codename Kids Next Door is fantastic. It still holds up today, I think. Number one's voice actor is the same guy who plays Joseph Joestar in the dub of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Really fun, like it really takes the imagination of being a kid and like the whole like kids versus adults theming. It's just stupid fun, and I highly recommend it. I think the only thing I remember from Code Lyoko was the kid almost drowning in a drain pipe. Yeah, Code Lyoko was a weird one. Oh, Courage the Cowardly Dog, that's easily an S tier. Courage got away with a lot of stuff that it really could not have gotten away with today. Courage the Cowardly Dog was one of my absolute favorites. It has a lot of scary episodes, and it was really the first horror-based cartoon that I ever watched. Marty Grabstein, super sweet guy. I got a cameo from him for my aunt, and he like did a 6-minute video for her. Fantastic guy. Overall, like, it didn't just have the horror-based episodes. It had like some really heart-wrenching ones too, like the Space Squid one, the episode with what else was there? The Kitty episode, was actually pretty incredible that they had that episode, because one of the episodes was about a kitty who had essentially like put a mask on and visited the farm, and she hated dogs because her girlfriend was kidnapped. So it was the first time that I ever saw in a cartoon like an LGBT plus couple being represented like that, and I thought it was really cool that this happened in the early 2000s. So definitely an S tier because it was definitely ahead of its time in terms of like its subject matter and just its representation. And like Courage didn't like, in the fact that Courage was like, you know what, like I don't care if I get hurt, I'm gonna reunite these two, and I thought that was really awesome. Solid S tier. If you get the chance to watch it, highly recommend the show. It's good for all ages, I think. Cow and Chicken, I'm going to put that as C tier, just because, like, even when Cow and Chicken was still running, I really did not like the art style. Like, I didn't like how constantly Cow was showing off her ass. And there was a lot, like, I know this was, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, so there was a lot of, like, the gross-out humor bits still there, but I just didn't really like Cow and Chicken all that much. I mean, I do have nostalgia for it, but as an adult, I just don't enjoy it very much at all. Have not seen this one. Have not seen that one. Not seen that one. Dexter's Lab, also an S tier, and I know this is my bias, because a lot of these are cartoons that I watched when I was a kid. But Dexter's Lab, there's just a lot of really fun moments in that one. Like there's an episode where he's watching a cartoon of like some superheroes, and then it's like cartoonception. So like the superheroes are watching a cartoon instead of a cartoon. And Dexter's Lab, there's also a movie event where he teamed up with like different versions of himself throughout time. And while I don't really remember a lot of the show, I do generally enjoy it because it had a mature theming to it because of Dexter's intelligence that I really appreciated. I did not watch the Dragon series. I did watch the How to Train Your Dragon films, but not the series. Duck Dodgers, I I watched it, but I don't remember it very much. And to be honest, I thought that Buck Rogers was copying Duck Dodgers when I was a kid. Like I didn't know that Duck Dodgers was actually based off of Buck Rogers, I believe he was a 1950s sci-fi hero. And then, of course, Ed, and Eddie, because we still need to get Matt Hill on the stream. I'm going to email him next week and follow up with him to see, like, if maybe he just lost the email. Because we will be getting him on stream. If not Matt, soon I'm going to see about getting another voice actor on stream for all of you. Because it would be really fun to do this interview process with not just one person, but multiple people. But Ed and Eddie, easily S tier. It is probably the best slapstick animated comedy I have ever seen. Like, Ed, Edd n Eddy, like, slapstick comedy, like, it's basically like the Three Stooges, but in cartoon form. Like, there's a lot of, like, cartoon shenanigans and violence, and in some places it even tells a really heartwarming story. Like the Big Picture Show, for example, like the very last movie that they made really tied up the storyline really well. And it's kind of like its own standalone thing. Like every episode is its own little timeline. Like they don't remember it in the next episode except for the clip show episodes. The cast is phenomenal. I think Tabitha St. Germain, or I can't remember if she was in that one or not, but Matt Hill, Tony Sampson, even if he doesn't do voice acting anymore, Sam Vincent. There was a lot of really good voice actors in that one. Solid S tier. If you can get a chance to watch it, highly recommend Ed, Edd n Eddy, because it's hilarious. And there's a lot of like hidden humor in Ed, Edd n Eddy. So like, for example, there's an episode where Eddie is trying to find his magazines, but he's like saying like, "Oh, it's the pictures that I like in the magazines." It's like, I don't want anyone else to steal my magazines. And then you look under Eddie's bed and there's tissue boxes and stuff like that. It's like, it's very obvious that Eddie has porn magazines, and this is for a kid's show. And they somehow got away with that, along with making references to sex too. Like in the Big Picture Show, which came out in 2009, they Double D is using an item called a sextant, and then it's called a sextant, Eddie, and then Ed and Double D are just cracking up, or like Ed and Eddie are cracking up. Evil Con Carne, I'm gonna give that an A tier. So Evil Con Carne really did not have a very long run on Cartoon Network. It really, it started out as Grim and Evil, and then it became its own show. But Evil Con Carne really didn't last all that long. It got absorbed into the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy universe, so it's technically like a spin-off in retrospect. But Evil Con Carne really didn't get a lot of screen time. But I really did enjoy it because I liked how... I like the whole concept of some gangster boy being his brain and his stomach being stuck into a circus bear and trying to rule the world, but he keeps failing because he's incompetent. I liked it, but it just didn't last very long, and that's kind of a shame. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, that one's also getting an A tier. There were some episodes in the later parts of the series that I didn't enjoy because I felt like they kind of got a little too wrapped up in not necessarily the slapstick humor, but I think the childish bits, like with the butt jokes and stuff. But Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends it's a great time for everybody. I think that any age can really appreciate it for what it is. It's got a really unique concept for a show where your imaginary friends aren't imaginary, they're real, and when you get to a certain age, they kind of go off on their own, and you put them up for adoption, and it kind of brings in some ideas of the fucked up nature of that world. It's like these are sentient beings and you're just setting them free, or abandoning them. So overall, really fun, good family fun. But later on, some of the episodes did get kind of jarring, at least for me. I have not watched the Garfield show. I think I have not watched this. Have not watched that. I have not watched Green Lantern. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, also going to put that in A tier. Because it started off as Grim and Evil, and then from there it just kind of became its own franchise or TV show. very, very cool concept. Like, just having the Grim Reaper as, like, just this chilled out, like, tired, like, from his job, like, dad figure. Like, I loved this portrayal, like, making the Grim Reaper not scary, but something relatable. Plus, like, I think it's Greg Eagles is the one who voices him with the Jamaican accent. It's just, like, a unique take on the Grim Reaper. Plus, it gets really dark. Like, this is the first show that I ever watched that really, like, referenced the underworld and, like, hell and all this other dark stuff. And it's like, I'm surprised that Cartoon Network was able to air this because of those, like, dark references. And, like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they got, like, many letters of complaint from, like, people who were, like, easily offended by that sort of thing. Grim and Evil, I'm actually surprised I'm going to put that in B tier. Because it did, like, Grim and Evil was the precursor to Evil Con Carne and Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. But the show itself really was just, like, in one part of the show, you would see Evil Con Carne. The next part, you would see Grim and his adventures. It was really, like, I guess Cartoon Network Studios really didn't know what they wanted to do with them at first. And then they split them off into two different shows, and then they became one show with Grim Adventures Billy and Mandy being the main one, and then Evil Con Carne just kind of ceasing to exist as its own individual entity. Lots of nostalgia, but overall, it didn't really have a lot to give. I remember I Am Weasel, but I don't remember watching it, so I can't really... Oh, Johnny Bravo! I'm gonna put that in S tier, because Johnny Bravo is, like, every modern man, like, trying to get a date. Like, he's buff, he's good looking, and he's an Elvis impersonator, but he can't get a date to save his life. Johnny Bravo has a lot of really good gags in it. Like, there's a gag where he's like, somebody's like, I'm gonna punch you in the next week, and he quite literally gets punched in the next week. I actually remember watching Johnny Bravo on a GBA cartridge, of all things. Timeless classic, and I think Bollywood actually made a sequel series, like, in like the early 2010s. So, like, Johnny Bravo had a continuation, just not in America. You know, never liked when they made animated series about movies like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Yeah, I think this will be my last tier list, then I'll move on to the edutainment, because I do have some filming to do tonight. But hey, welcome to the stream, Orchid. Good to see ya. I've just been doing some tier lists, and I'm going to do some edutainment games. I'm getting there. Johnny Test, did not watch that one. I'll kind of go, like, a little faster, just so I can kind of get through this. But Justice League, S tier. Like, Justice League is fantastic. Like, I was never really exposed to the comics as a kid, and this was really my only exposure to the DC superheroes. And Justice League was very mature for its time. Like, this was definitely directed towards, like, a younger audience, with being on Cartoon Network, but Justice League is phenomenal. Like, probably one of the best animated superhero shows of all time. Like, the portrayal of Batman, just everyone has their own unique dynamic, and they really portray a lot of the characters fairly well. So definitely Justice League is going to be an S tier, because it's highly recommend watching that one. I think this is Justice League Unlimited down here, and that's kind of like a sequel series. So I'll put that in S tier as well, because anything Justice League is great. This one I did not see. Crypto the Superdog! I forgot about that show. I think he tested on that show. Yeah, and then that's how the movies happened. It's like the show was one thing. But yeah, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I read the books when I was a kid, like in the 2nd grade, and that was how I knew about them. Crypto the Superdog, I'm going to give it a B, because it's a really fun show. Like, I really like the concept of, like, there being a Kryptonian dog that survived, and it kind of, like, helps the whole story of Superman feel a lot less lonely. And just seeing, like, the adventures that Krypto goes in with all of the sidekick pets and whatnot. Like, he gets to meet, like, Catwoman's pet, he gets to meet Batman's, and, like, Bat-Dog. In their own little contained animal universe outside of the DC canon. Like, well, I mean, it's in the DC canon, but outside of, like, the main storyline with, like, Arkham City, or not Arkham City, but Gotham City and whatnot. There were books. Yeah, that's actually where Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs came from. Is that there's I think 2 children's books, and then those were made into a movie. I've not seen that one. I have not seen Juniper Lee. Not seen that one. I think this is just generic Looney Tunes. Which, I mean, I'll give that an A just because it's Looney Tunes. I mean, if it's kind of overarching with every Looney Tunes show that's ever, like, been around, then yeah, there's a lot to go through with that, and I feel like I'd be here hours talking about it. But I'll give it an A tier because I appreciate it and I love it, but it's definitely not something that I would just put on and watch just for shits and giggles. So Mad TV. So there's the Mad magazine, and there was Mad TV, and then Mad had its own animated series on Cartoon Network for a while, which just parodied a lot of popular movies at the time. So I'll give it a B because it was kind of in the same vein of like the scary movie films with the parodies. Like, it did a good job, but I mean, it didn't really have a lot of too funny jokes, but they did. Mad TV did say crap on Cartoon Network, which was kind of a shock to me that they were allowed to say that, because like crap is not like a terrible word, but I mean it's not something that you would expect to see on Cartoon Network, which is relatively family friendly. I hope that gasp was for the for the crap and not the ranking. I know how iconic Mad is, but I just didn't watch a lot of it. I know about this one, but I have not actually seen it, and I can't remember the name of it. Flapjack. D. I hated Flapjack. I know that Flapjack may have a special place in some people's hearts, but I just found it to be annoying. The art style just really turned me off, and the advertisements for it when it first came out were really annoying. I did not enjoy Flapjack really much at all. Also, like, I don't hate Crypto, but also now his name feels tied to Crypto, and I just can't help but imagine Crypto the dog trying to sell me some Dogecoin. I mean, it's true. Like, Crypto the super dog, not Superman's dog, but Crypto, like cryptocurrency the dog. Megas XLR. I'm gonna give that an A tier. Megas XLR. It was kind of like this dude bro anime with like this trucker gamer dude. Like he, like this robot from the future gets sent back into the past along with a woman, and the aliens from this future war go back in time with them, and they have to repair the robot by putting like a truck or something on top of it, and he uses a game controller to fight with it. Really cool mech-based show. Lots and lots of good action scenes, but it kind of ended before it even really began. Like, I don't really remember seeing a lot of Megas XLR, but super good show. Like, I loved it. The one with the mechas, right? Yeah, it was really good. I loved Megas XLR. Have not seen that one. I think this is Mike Lou and Og down here. I remember it, but I don't remember like anything about it. So I'm gonna put that in net. Don't remember. Don't remember that one. Have not seen that one. Mucha Lucha. Ooh, that one's. So I'm gonna give Mucha Lucha mediocre. It was fun to watch, but like the whole concept of the show is that there's a group of like elementary school kids who want to like live up to their parents' reputation of being luchadors. So it's got a lot of like there's a lot of Spanish like cultural undertones to it, which is really fascinating, and I really like it. But like the whole show is like I don't know, like it just like as an adult looking back on it, like I realized that there were a lot of stupid moments in the show, and that's just me. Like I did enjoy it as a kid, I just probably wouldn't enjoy it as an adult. Happens to the best of the show, it's just getting canceled before it can get anywhere. Yeah, and that's what sucks, that there's so many on this list that had that fate, and I wish it wasn't the case. My Gym Partner's a Monkey, I'm gonna have to put that in D tier, because it was the whole like I didn't really appreciate like the character mooning me every 5 seconds. While there is a couple fun episodes of it, and I do like the whole concept of because the kid's last name is Lion, he goes to a middle school like full of animals. And sure, that would be a lot of people's dream, like going to a school with anthropomorphic animals, but at the same time, like it just, I don't know, like it just didn't really stick well with me too much. It's kind of forgettable. I have not seen Ninjago. I have not seen this one either, or that one, or that one. Powerpuff Girls reboot. I have not seen that one, but I hear that it's a mixed bag. But the original Powerpuff Girls, I'm going to put that in great, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because the original Powerpuff Girls, I loved as a kid, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Because some of the villains, like him, I watched an analysis on him, and he's basically like a metaphor for Satan, and I'm surprised that they allowed that in a cartoon like the Powerpuff Girls. And that whole episode with him, like in the future, where the Powerpuff Girls are in this post-apocalyptic world, it's dark, it's scary, it's disturbing. Because like the entirety of Townsville and like the whole world, they're like zombies, while this like Satan-like figure has control of the entire world, and they're just beating up on him, and he's not even taking a scratch. Like, Powerpuff Girls is they're awesome. Like, I definitely am going to keep that in an A tier. At least the original. Like, I don't have any desire to watch the reboot. Let's see. Regular show, did not watch. Robot Boy. Now that's a blast from the past. I'm going to give that it was mediocre. Like, it kind of felt like Astro Boy in some ways, like even down to the design of Robot Boy. I liked it as a kid, and I thought it was really cute, the whole dynamic between Robot Boy and the kid. But again, it was just not really a lot of enjoyment for me as an adult. At least that's how I feel. Samurai Jack, I'm actually gonna put this in A tier, and I would put it in S tier. But Samurai Jack, if this was just on the last season alone, it would easily be S tier. But I'm gonna put it in A tier because Samurai Jack, the problem that it had is that it was a Cartoon Network show. And the problem with being just a Cartoon Network show is that it had a lot of story it wanted to tell, but it wasn't able to tell because of the content limitations of being on Cartoon Network. So the show just kept going on endlessly in the multiple seasons without any like progression of Jack as a character or his whole point or his purpose to get back in time. Sometimes they would like hint at it a little bit, but eventually the show just got canceled, and it came back in 2017, and it was an Adult Swim show, and it really like aged with its audience. Like, it had blood, it had guts, it had cussing. Like, it was a mature show. Like, this is what Samurai Jack should have been from the get-go. And there were some problems with the pacing of the last season, but I'm really satisfied with how it concluded. I was just happy that Samurai Jack had an ending, period. But it's easily going to be an A tier because some of the seasons and just it dragged along too much before it got to the epic finale. OKKO was fine, just don't like how they solved the TKO arc. It's kind of an evil alter, whatever it is. But I held hope he would get redeemed, kind of integration becoming one. Yeah, like a lot of these shows I didn't get a chance to watch because they were a little after my time. But some of them I did get like glimpses of. I think this is I don't know what Scooby-Doo series this is, and I can't read it, so I'm going to put this in a what is category. Never seen that. Never seen that. Sheep in the Big City, I don't remember watching, but I know that was a cartoon back in the day. Oh dear, Sonic Boom. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Sonic Boom, mediocre. Yeah, I did find some enjoyment in its self-awareness, like in the fourth wall breaks and the references to the Sonic community. But overall, Sonic Boom was just a low point for the entire Sonic franchise. It was just not good. Like, I didn't like all these new characters they added, and just Sonic just didn't feel like Sonic a lot of the time. And Knuckles, too, for that matter. Oh, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, easily an S tier. So Space Ghost Coast to Coast was kind of like it was almost like its own nightly talk show in a way, but using the Space Ghost characters. So from what I understand, Space Ghost was like a superhero character at first, but like he didn't really take off that well, so they just kind of like relegated him and his villains into a talk show based format. There's a lot of interactivity with Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I Absolutely loved it. It's really silly. It's a lot of fun, and I think it was an Adult Swim show. Now that I think about it, I don't remember if it was Adult Swim. Yeah, yeah. Like what was his name? Oh, geez, I can't remember the character's name, but I know which one you just posted. Squirrel Boy, I have not seen. Star Wars The Clone Wars 2003, S tier. 100% that is an S tier. And the reason being is that it's Genndy Tartakovsky. He's the same person who did Samurai Jack. It tied into episode 3 really well. Fantastic. Like, absolutely fantastic show. Like, if you haven't seen the original 2003 Clone Wars, it's available on Disney Plus. Watch it. It is a ride. Like, if you want to see like Anakin at his best and the Clone Wars at their best, watch that animated series. Because at first, like, they just had those in like maybe like 5-minute segments, like in between shows back in the day. So you didn't really get the full story all at once, and that's how they spread it out to match up with the release of Episode 3 in 2005. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the 2008 animated series, I'm going to put that in S tier. Because it did start off really slow, but Clone Wars got really, really good near the end. Like, at first, I hated Ahsoka. Like, her character was annoying to me. I thought she was naive. I thought she was pointless. I didn't like her. But then Ahsoka really grew on me as a character. She really matured. And the fact that Ahsoka has that live-action series now, and she's appeared in The Mandalorian and Rebels and so on, like, Ahsoka is probably one of my favorite female Jedi, if not my favorite female Jedi. So, S tier for sure, because while I do really like the original Clone Wars series better, I still find a lot of enjoyment in the newer series, too. Static Shock, that is also going to go in S tier. Static Shock is a DC superhero. He doesn't get a lot of love nowadays, unfortunately, but Static Shock really touched up on a lot of cultural problems that we faced as a society. There was an episode where he was talking with his friend at his house, and he came over, and there was a whole episode about like race relations and like racism and tensions relating to that, and how Static Shock like resolved those, and it really touched up on some important topics that we face as a society today. So Static Shock, not just for the superhero bit, but also for the fact it really touched up on some things that kids needed to know about. Steven Universe, I'm going to give that also an S tier because the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's mature. Like with Static Shock, it touches up on a lot of issues in this world. For example, Steven Universe, there was an episode where there was his uncle or something came over, and he was complaining that the crystal gems were illegal immigrants. So it really touched up on like acceptance and like accepting other people from different cultures and stuff. Plus, it just like you could see Steven really grow as a character from like a really naive child into one who like wanted to be like morally good to everybody, and Steven really succeeded in doing that. And I think that's really incredible that he managed to do everything he set his mind out to. He made friends with all of his enemies, with the exception of a couple, and I think that's really cool. Not sure what that one is. Not sure what that one is. Same with that one. That one. That one. Teen Titans Go. Bad. No. Just get rid of Teen Titans Go. Take it off the air, please, for the love of God. Sure, if the kids enjoy it, that's great, but Teen Titans Go is the reason why the Teen Titans name has really gone down the drain. While I do like some of its fourth wall breaks, Teen Titans Go just really gives a bad name to the original Teen Titans. And I know that I'm not the target audience for it, but if you're going to use a recognizable name, then at least try to make it like the original. Sure, like you're wanting to make these characters more kid-friendly, so you took out all the seriousness, but Teen Titans Go. Like, what more can be said about that one? Teen Titans, now the original Teen Titans, that one is going into the S tier. This one, again, like with Justice League, it really like showed the seriousness behind the DC universe. And like Robin kind of like was the star of the show. Like Dick Grayson, he didn't rely on Batman at all. And I thought that was really cool that we got to see Robin as the star of the show. Like, he's no longer the sidekick, he is the superhero. And I think that's really awesome. And we get to see Cyborg and Beast Boy, Raven, and Starfire, and just the story was so mature, and it's still on a cliffhanger because Cartoon Network doesn't want to finish it, and they tease the audience with Teen Titans Go references all the time. And it's like, come on, Cartoon Network, grow a heart. Like, let's see Terra and Beast Boy reunite. Like, come on, hashtag Terra reunion 2023. Have not seen that one. Have not seen that one. Time Squad, I remember it, but I don't remember watching it all that much. Total Drama Island. That one's a good one. I didn't watch a lot of it, but it did really have a good dynamic between the characters. So I'll keep that in an A tier. Don't remember that one. Okay, Totally Spies was a guilty pleasure, but I'm gonna put that in good. I watched Totally Spies when I was a kid, and I liked the concept, but I don't really remember a lot of it, but I'll put it in B tier because I do remember enjoying it. Don't remember that one. Uncle Grandpa, bad. Like, stay far away from that one. Have not watched that one. Haven't watched that one. Not. What a Cartoon. So, I'm going to put that in B tier, just because What a Cartoon was like, I believe that was their whole showcasing new cartoons. And, like, whatever won the What a Cartoon contest would, like, become the next cartoon. So I'm going to put that in B tier just because it's good because of what it became, not because of, like, what it is as an entity. Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, I'm going to put that in C tier, because while I did enjoy it, and what the hell did happen to Robot Jones, because it had 2 seasons and then it was gone forever. Like, it was here and then it was gone. Like, whatever happened to Robot Jones? Like, where'd the show go? I do know that the first season they used, like, a Microsoft text-to-speech program, but it was too robotic, ironically enough, so they got a voice actor and they just synthesized his audio for the next season. But it's just elementary school shenanigans with a robot. Like, it's a fun show, but it's pretty forgettable, all things considered. Like, it's got a pretty generic concept, I think. I'm not a huge fan of Steven Universe. Never watched it. It's just that there's a character named Rose in it, and she besmirches my name. Go is the slap in the face of the OG show that didn't even get a proper finish. Yeah. Yeah, well, Steven Universe still has a really good soundtrack, too, because it's of chiptune. Like, a lot of it is chiptune music, and I love that. Then we got another Scooby-Doo here. Didn't really watch a lot of Scooby-Doo. Young Justice, I heard that it's really good, so I'm going to put that in never watched. Annoying Orange, bad. Stay away from that. It had its time on YouTube. Doesn't need a show. Forget it exists. I've never seen that one. I don't think I've seen that one. Batman, the animated series. Oh boy, that one's an S tier. That one, I think that's from the 90s, I believe. Like late 90s, early 2000s. Probably one of the most true to form Batman animated shows that really, like, portrayed Batman true to his comic self. It was very dark. It didn't kid around with its subject matter. Probably one of the best portrayals of Bruce Wayne in an animated show, like, by far. Didn't watch that one. Didn't watch that one. Or that one. Or that one. Or that one. And then this is the grown-up Steven Universe, which I have not seen. So, this is my tier list. This is how I feel about most Cartoon Network shows. And, you know, it gives you kind of more of an insight into me, Eno, as a spirit, because you get to kind of see, like, what I like and what my opinions on certain things are. Because, like, while you see a side of me with the games, you get to see a different side of me whenever I'm judging things like TV shows, video games, controllers, and what have you. Because it kind of lets me share my childhood with all of you, which is what I appreciate, because, again, I'm really big about nostalgia. But really, my best shows are the ones here, like Johnny Bravo, Adventure Time, Courage, what have you, and Gumball, Batman Beyond, and, like, these are, like, everything from A and S tier are highly recommended. Like, I mean, Looney Tunes is just kind of there, but I highly recommend all the shows here. Like if you haven't seen any, like they are worth your time, especially the story-based ones like Teen Titans and Adventure Time and Star Wars: The Clone Wars 2003. Like I will always nerd over that one. And then Samurai Jack. Like Samurai Jack is fantastic. Like I love just the lore behind it, and it's just a really technically he's not even a samurai because samurais are they are in servitude to a lord or a master, and Samurai Jack does not have a master or a lord that he serves, and he is just kind of on his own. So he's a ronin. So it's more of a ronin Jack because he has no master, he serves no one but himself, and he's not in that regard he's not too different from Aku, but watcha. I do carry some vague memories about the show's aesthetic from others in the system, and it's a pretty show. Rose Quartz can go and take care of a garden or something. Yeah, but this is my tier list part of the stream. So I'm going to take a short bit of the stream to do some edutainment games. I actually need to let my friends know that it'll be a bit before I'm able to film. But I do have some edutainment games planned. I have 2. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the Be Right Back screen while I have it prepared. So the first game I'm going to play, since chat loves to tease me about, well, I guess I can put it back on the live scene because I guess I actually have to open it up and make sure that it's capturing. So let me go ahead and mute my desktop audio while I open this up. Alright, give me just a second, chat, while I set this up, because it's extremely loud and I don't want to destroy everyone's eardrum.